All right, so we start out. Oh, this is your Owl Creek post lecture. So if you've not read it yet, you've gone too far. Go up one, click on the PDF, open it, read it, then come back, click on this, and we'll be good. So we open up, and a man is about to be hanged, and it's not a very good feeling at all for anyone. I mean, there's that sense, obviously, of literally impending doom. There is the idea of leaving your family behind, which is tearing this guy apart. But what we've got here, guys, is a couple of things. One, we have this man, and when we first start out, we're not exactly sure what he's done to be hanged, but we typically, whenever we first start something out and we read about some kind of punishment, a lot of times our inclination is to go ahead and assume they're guilty, or to find out what did they do. What is it that they did that warranted them being murdered, or being killed or executed? And it becomes pretty evident eventually of what this guy did. Now, if you did not notice, the setting for this particular story is during the Civil War. And so, obviously, we're dealing with a time period which is radically different from us, just from the technological point, but also culturally, we are very different. If you remember what you read about Peyton, the main character, the man being hanged, is that he is a Southerner, he is a plantation owner. He was a secessionist, which means that he was all about leaving the Union, that kind of stuff. But we still feel sympathetic for him. Whenever whenever Ambrose talks about the noose around the neck, that swollen feeling, that horrible feeling, the sense of impending doom. But what we have here is a couple of things. First, what we've got is, sorry about that. A couple things. What we've got first off is, let's talk about Peyton. Peyton is, just because we've got this idea historically that Southerners were evil, that they were all just a bunch of bad guys, that they were all just a bunch of evil people that just beat and abused slaves all day and all night, and that was a reality. But what we're talking about here is that whenever we end up reading this, a lot of our expectations, especially about Peyton and what we kind of figure that he represents, that of course being Southern racism and hate and bias and prejudice, that doesn't really enter in a lot to the writing. In fact, it's just very vaguely hinted on at all, other than the fact that it mentions that he was pro-secession, all of that kind of stuff. There's no real opinions that's threw in there about slavery on behalf of Peyton, good, bad, or indifferent, other than they obviously was a plantation owner, but and therefore a politician, as I said. Now, it's pretty fair to assume, though, that he was pro-slavery, but there's not a lot of evil, I guess you could say, in the man, beside that. Which, once again, that was a lot of them was a cultural thing. Not to excuse any of that, but it wasn't so much done in malice as it was tradition, which was really, to be honest, messed up in its own right. But what we really kind of focus on, what boils to the top for Peyton, is the idea of his wife and his family. And that's really kind of what that main tribe's about. So anyway, we meet him. He's about to be hanged, because that is actually the proper term, hanged, guys. I know it sounds strange. You want to say hung as though it's past tense, but hanged is actually something a little bit different. So he's about ready to be hanged, and he is thinking of these things, what possible escape routes he might have, because he's about ready to be literally tossed off, or not so much tossed off, but dropped off between a bridge, or off a bridge, between a bridge, the planks of the bridge, and not a lot of escape from that, guys. It's not like you can just pick a lock or anything like that. His hands are tied behind his back, and he even thinks if he could just get his hands over him back, he could maybe pull himself up and release his neck, whatever it might be. But we know that's not the case. So anyway, what ends up happening is he drops, And then somehow he gets free. And he falls into the river. And then all of a sudden he looks back and there are gunshots and there are yelling like, get him, the captain, all those men, they're firing at him. And he dives in the water to try to avoid the bullets because he says, one bullet splashed right next to him. He could feel the spray on his face. So he's diving and he's swimming through Owl Creek and all that kind of stuff. And he finally pulls himself up. Now, stopping right here, we're going to talk about that flashback scene where he is at home with his wife and a Confederate soldier rides up looking for some water. And it's kind of made known that the Union Army is on its way, and that the only thing kind of keeping them from that part of the country is that bridge at Owl Creek, or the Owl Creek Bridge. And so it is revealed that they only have basically one sentry guarding it, and that wouldn't be much of a fight for a Union squad. And so it's pretty much known that they're going to be there. Now, what gets into Peyton's head, and that's something that we need to point out, is he says, what if a civilian, did something? And what's mentioned here is that it was the idea that the war had not yet spilled onto his home that really kind of concerned him. And I think that actually we need to point that out, that it was not so much he wanted to get the Yanks, he wanted to be a soldier or win the battle, whatever it is. It was the fact that if he got rid of that bridge, the war would stay away from his home a little bit longer, stay away from his family a little bit longer. And that really has to go with that characterization. Once again, what is important to him is his wife and his family. And so that's why he goes to essentially blow it up, to get rid of it. This, that, and the other. And obviously it does not work out. And we realize that that is how he got captured. That is why he's being hanged. And so that is what really matters to him, and that's the characterization that we really need to focus on. Now, after he falls in the river, he swims, he gets away from the soldiers, he is running home, and things start happening to him physically. His throat feels swollen, his tongue feels swollen, and he opens it up like he's almost like he's thirsty, and the cold air makes his tongue feel better, but something else is going on. Something else is wrong. As he's walking, he says he kind of passed out, and he must have walked while he slept. Which, guys, sleepwalking is not necessarily a intelligent thing where you're gonna I'm gonna zig right, go left, go right, go left. But in this case, I guess it kind of is. But anyway, also what we have here is that he says the trees began to feel like solid black walls, like a tunnel almost, guiding him home or whatever it is. And here is where things get a lot bit strange. So anyway, he finally somehow sees home, goes through the gates, his wife comes down, they embrace, this, that, and the other, everything's fine, everything's okay, he's back home, and then snap. Ambrose brings us right back to reality, to that last paragraph, where Peyton is dead, swinging off of the Owl Creek Bridge with his neck broke, hanged. You see, Ambrose takes us off the course of reality. All of this is going on through Peyton's head while he is hanging, while he is dying. He has left reality and seen kind of this, this kind of fantasy about what could have happened, what should have happened, maybe. Maybe this is what is going on in his brain, but the reality is that he's dying. He's dying. And that's the twist for us. That twist ending is, nope, he's dead. Everything you've been reading is false, except for the fact that he has been tossed off this bridge, that he's dead, that he's dying, that his neck broke. The rest of it's a fantasy. Now, there's a few different theories on this. One is, obviously, that is what he was thinking and imagining as he was dying. The other is that maybe that's his journey to the afterlife. Maybe instead of a light in the tunnel, he gets dropped off the bridge and swims, and those tunnels, those trees were in fact his tunnel to the afterlife, and that he sees his wife, who's still beautiful and full of life, and that is his afterlife, and that's what's going on. I kind of like that idea myself, just because it's a little bit more pleasant than the simple fact that he is just imagining what could have been while he dies. Let's be honest with you, either one works, and there's just as much evidence to negate or promote either one. There really is. It really, once again, is one of those things that it is up to you to decide based on your own philosophical standing, your own ideas, and what you really want to happen, to be honest with you. Whatever you want in this particular regard is true, but doing that and having that opinion still does not change the fact that he's dead. Still does not change the fact that he died. And so what we really need to keep in mind is that twist, while fantastic, and what I mean by that is that we just don't see it coming. We think he's on his way home. We think that he is in the arms of his loving wife again, and then he's not. He's dead. Dead. Like, not coming back dead. And that's a heck of a twist to throw for a last paragraph. It's just that those 3 sentences completely change a huge chunk of that story entirely. And that does such a great job of that. And as an author, I mean, that's just a wonderful thing, because you can buy into it. You're like, wow. Okay. And it does so without feeling rushed. A lot of people, whenever they try to put twists into their stories, especially at the end, there's and he was dead the whole time. You can't really buy into it. But the way that Ambrose is able to actually do this is it's very matter-of-fact, it's very subtle, and it actually aligns with the style of the story. And we buy into it. Without it being too, to be honest with you, without it being too abrupt. It fits right into the style of the story. And so we're able to buy into that one because it is so good and so wonderfully done and creative that we feel relief for Peyton when he gets home, and then that relief is snatched from us, and we have to scratch our head saying, he's dead now. I mean, that's a falsehood, what we read. Now, once again, it could have just been the things that are going through his mind as he was dying. It could be his journey to the afterlife. Whatever cup of tea you want to sip from, that's yours. It's fine, whichever one. And hopefully you'll sound off your opinion with your quiz and with your blog and our unit discussion, which we'll talk about this a little bit too. But anyway, I want to know, what is it that you think is going on? And then another thing is, well, why would Ambrose do it that way? I mean, why write a story where the majority of it is talking about being hanged, then escaping the noose, essentially, only to come back to reality, to snap that he did not escape the noose, that he is dead, in fact. And I mean, that's such a powerful idea that readers, we think, okay, yes, he's away. Yes, he survived not just the noose, he survived the fall, he survived the swim, he survived the gunshots, but then he makes it home. Now, obviously, Ambrose gives us plenty of hints that this is not reality that's going on here. The black trees turning into a solid wall of tunnel almost. The throat, his feeling the pressure on his throat, thinking that it was just a black bruise that when we escaped the noose, but instead in the reality it is literally that noose tightening around his throat, and then the tongue, the swelling of the tongue, which has to do obviously with there's no blood flow going through, and so that blood is swelling kind of and staying dormant and all those kinds of things, and that's the reality that's going on within that fantasy. It's very kind of interesting. It's kind of like the Matrix, The Matrix is just a dream, but if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life. I mean, that's kind of what's going on here. Is he's dying in real life, and the result of that is being played out in the fantasy, which is just another wonderful hint that we get. And so, hopefully you enjoy the story. Hopefully you're able to get some really good thoughts out of it, and you learn some very good lessons about the twist endings, how you can have that big twist, but there's nothing wrong with feeding evidence throughout in little bits. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And so, but there it is, that very big twist that all of a sudden you turn it on a dime and it's just flipped around completely. No, he's not alive. No, he's not home. Yes, he's dead. Yes, he's hanging from the Owl Creek Bridge. And so there's your post-lecture. What you need to do now, obviously, is you need to go ahead and get started on quiz number 5, and you need to get started on blog number 5, and then get on to your next pre-lecture. So just fair warning, guys, the next one is really good and kind of violent. So enjoy, look forward to it. Give me good work. Okay, give me a lot of good work. I want quality stuff here. All right, guys, talk to you later.